Brace the rudders! Raise the sails! Raise the sails!
Captain, an unidentified ship is approaching. Over.
Roger. Wait, is that an enterprise sales solution?
Reach sales professionals, not professional sailors. With LinkedIn ads, you can target the right people by industry, job title, and more. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Get started today at linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply.
Google Analytics 4 GA4 was not designed for you. If you're a news publisher, it ain't for you. Google built that thing for the people who write Google checks. The people who write Google checks are the people who sell stuff online. Okay? That not you. So, GA4 emphasizes page views. People are chasing page views. People are chasing clicks. What we were talking about earlier was lifetime value. If you're cranking out clickbait, you're not delivering lifetime value. You're looking for drive-by traffic. You're looking for viral hits. If that's your business, go ahead. Go compete with BuzzFeed and every other clickbaity thing out there.
This is Small Press Big Ideas, a podcast about the business of local news in the United States. I'm your host, Paul Gewertz. Small Press Big Ideas is about the opportunities and challenges that local news publishers are facing for their businesses. I'll sit down and talk with journalists, entrepreneurs, nonprofit leaders, and more in the local news industry to find out what's working, what isn't, and how the local news ecosystem can innovate and flourish in the 21st century. Okay, today on the podcast, I am joined by David LaFontaine. David is a lead UX designer and managing consultant at TruePath Analytics. We've talked a few times, and I think this will be some juicy stuff in this episode. So, David, thanks for coming on the show. I appreciate it, man.
But of course. And first order of business, credentialize myself. All right. So here's my background. Started off as a print newspaper reporter back when print newspapers were really a thing. My local news cred is I was a regional reporter for the Eau Claire Leader-Telegram up in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, and covering all the surrounding counties and doing all the stuff that you do as, Jimmy Olsen cub reporter. Car accidents and obituaries and catfish queens in the local 4th of July parade. After that, I worked at the Arizona Republic as a copy editor, went down to the Caracas Daily Journal in Caracas, Venezuela, where I, at the ripe old age of 23, was made into the managing editor of a daily newspaper. Came back to the United States, worked for magazines in Los Angeles, then went digital, started my own online magazines, went multimedia, parlayed that into one of the very early online streaming video platforms. After that, and the .com 1.0 implosion, that was fun. Then kind of parlayed that into being the lead researcher for the Newspaper Association of America. And a lot of what I was doing there was trying to figure out ways to do digital transformation. And this was really when the revenue collapse was happening and the money was just going from newspapers to Craigslist and then to what is now the dominant duopoly of Facebook and Google, where 80% of all the ad spend now seems to go. I will have some points about things along those lines. Lately, I have been working to bring together two of my passions, one of which is design, UX design, which is just basically let's build digital products that human beings can actually use without having to have a PhD in math. The data side of things, the analytics. I've done that because my fellow creatives, there's a reason why we went into journalism, and that tends to be because we were bad at math. And so people in this profession tend to be a little numbers phobic, which is a problem because the data can tell you things if you know how to look and if you know where to look. I like to make a big distinction between, I hear a lot of people saying, we're making data-driven decisions, and that just kind of sets my teeth on edge. A data-driven decision is we just looked at the spreadsheet and we're doing whatever the spreadsheet tells us to do. I have entire presentations in design for high-end enterprise clients about why that's a problem. The data can tell you things, but the data can also tell you the wrong things. We need to have data and human factors the real world here. The machine, the data scientists, the best I've gotten from it is from a friend of mine who's just an absolute genius. I taught journalism, digital immersion at USC Annenberg. One of my colleagues there runs an outfit called Ninja Metrics. He works with video games where there's billions and billions and billions of dollars at stake, and it's all about the experience. Do you keep playing the game for $10 a month on World of Warcraft if it sucks and it's really hard? No, you don't. So you really have to pay attention to the digital experience to get people to keep subscribing. This is a word we will hear more about today, and the numbers tell you how to do that. Big gaming companies spend an inordinate amount of time using data and analytics to unite with user experience to make sure that people keep coming back. Riot Games, which does the League of Legends, and they make billions of dollars a year off of that, they aggregate all these numbers together, and then they have one king number, which is called player trust. And it's whether or not people trust the game enough to keep playing. If I go into the dungeon and I smack the monster 10 times with the sword, does he die? Great. If he does, yes. Cause and effect are united. I can trust the game. I keep on playing. If I do that and for whatever reason there's a glitch and it doesn't, I ain't going to play anymore. Now, where this is relevant to the news industry is, and I'm sure most of the people who are interested in this have seen all the studies talking about how trust has declined in the news industry. There's a reason for that, and we're going to get into that today. But that's me. That's who I am. I'm working with TruePath Analytics now with a partner of mine. He's an absolute genius at the back end. He has a company called CopperPress that works with WordPress platforms and plugins to provide you an out-of-the-box solution for having a news website. He's the back end guy. I'm the front end guy. I come on in, I look at your data and your analytics. I figure out what your audience is doing, who's your audience, who isn't your audience, who might be your audience, and how you can start making more money from the content that you spend so much time producing. Ta-da!
Well, that's great. I'd like to dig into that a little bit more, Mike, because my next question was kind of what is, like, maybe some nuts and bolts what you do with publishers with data and UX. Like, except for me, for years when I heard data, my eyes kind of just glossed over. Yeah. I'm like, oh, yes, data. So, like, what does that mean? What kind of data are you pouring through? Like, where are you, like, literally, like, nuts and bolts, where are you accessing it? And what are you looking at for, like I don't know, local, mid-size, smallish, whatever publishers you're working with? Yeah.
Generally, it's Google Analytics because it's free. There are other analytics solutions out there. Some of them cost insane amount of money. One I will recommend that is free for small to mid-sized publishers that might be helpful to them is Foo Analytics, F-O-U Analytics. He is a person in the analytics space I've been spending a lot of time paying attention to because he's addressing the problem of click fraud.
Just real quick, is that Dr. Augustine Foo? He keeps coming up from everybody I talk to. Okay, sorry. I just wanted to make sure.
I brought him to the Media Data Collaborative a couple of months ago. Mm-hmm. Basically, it's because something that I'd been hearing about for more than 12 years, which is that something like 1/3 of all the ads served on the web are not seen by human beings because of click fraud and bots. And I've been hearing about this for more than a decade. And I'd been wanting to run my own experiments, and this is a guy who actually did it. And he found out that, not only is that the problem, but it's even bigger than you think. Relevant to like local digital publishers is when you go to these programmatic ad networks, the advertiser is going to be paying $18 CPM. You're going to be getting 80 cents. 95% of your money is being stolen in between there.
Jeez.
Yeah, this is a reason why advertising is a problem and not such a revenue stream, because news publishers of all stripes, have kind of abrogated this space to the people who run these ad servers and these ad exchanges. It's a huge problem. Any one publisher cannot solve it alone. We need to band together and start demanding change, exposing to advertisers, particularly local advertisers, that a third, at least, sometimes as much as 90% of their ad spend is getting wasted. And this is an opportunity. That old saying that the same character for crisis is opportunity. Yes, there's an ad and revenue crisis. There's also a massive ad and revenue opportunity. If we look at the global digital ad market, that is $43 billion a year. If 1/3 of that is being stolen right now, work the numbers, baby. That's more than $880 billion a year of your money that is being stolen in broad daylight and has been for the last 10 years. Just think of that as like maybe a grant. If there's $180 billion in grants for news publishers out there, would you not at least be interested in like trying to get a slice of that? Come on, guys,
Right.
Let's do something here. Anyway, this is me, the analytics frustrated guy. You can see this is one of the things that gets me animated. All right. So back to the question, what do I do for publishers? Looking at Google Analytics, I can start seeing things like what kind of technology are your people using when they hit the site? Are they all coming from iPhones? Are they generally, as you're going to see in a lot of small to mid-sized cities, they're using Android phones? What's the age bracket of people? Are you getting younger viewers or are you getting older viewers? What time of day are they coming? What type of content, most especially, are they looking at? And this is a fascinating one, what are the paths that people are navigating as they go through your site? What page do they land on? Where do they go next? 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 Where do they leave? You start looking at things like this in design to see if there's a problem on your site. If there's one consistent page that everybody gets to this page and then everybody is out of there, what's going on that page? What is turning them off? That's where you go from your analytics hat to your design hat. If there's a broken experience on the site that is turning people off, that is making them leave your site, maybe we should fix that so they don't leave your site, because the longer they stay on your site, the more stories they click on, the more advertising revenue you make. Pathways also, and I heard this from an absolute genius, guy by the name of Aaron Pilhofer. He was in charge of the digital side of the Minneapolis Star-Tribune. He's moving down to Chicago to take over Chicago Public Media. What pathways are is you're looking at what led one of your readers to convert to be a subscriber, a member, a donor, signing up for your newsletters, going to one of your events. Okay? And what we do is it's called regression analysis. We see all the people who wound up at the place where we want them to be, which is clicking on the big orange button that says buy now, subscribe, donate. Okay. Also, design note, we call it the big orange button. Why is that? Because in a lot of extensive design testing, the bigger and oranger we make the button, the more people click on it. Why is that? I wish I knew, but we're all operant conditioned to click on the orange button now to give people online our money. Anyway, the pathways doing regression analysis, we figure out what chain of events led somebody to want to give you money and say, yes, I like what you're doing. Here's some money. Keep doing it. I want to be a part of your community. We can also call this a sales funnel. And what I do with the analytics is figure out what are the things that lead people to donate, to become members, to become subscribers, to go to your pay to go to your events, to buy your merchandise. This is what I do also for e-commerce clients. People who sell t-shirts and shoes and iPhone cases online, they pay extremely close attention to the analytics and to the design because they have to. If you're doing e-commerce online right now, the competition there is just absolutely cutthroat, ferocious. And you got to come correct if you want to get people to give you their money, because there's a lot of competition, much as there now is in the news business. I'm sure many of you have heard the phrase subscription fatigue. Yeah, and why is that? Because everybody now is going from ad-supported models because Facebook and Google have scarfed up all the ad money. They're like, okay, we can't make any money off of advertising anymore. See my previous comments, how we should. But people are just accepting that. And so they're like, okay, I can't get any ad money. I guess I got to get my readers to like hork up some money to me directly, or my viewers. And that's, what we're seeing with the broadcast networks, why they've gone to Peacock instead of going over broadcast channels with NBC, because the advertisers ain't giving them money no more. So now people are looking at, okay, how do I get somebody to be a subscriber? All right. Another metric that is going to become, well, it already is to the bigger publishers, but it's going to start becoming extremely important to mid to small publishers, is the word churn, which is I get somebody, they're in for a while, then they're out, then somebody else comes in, they're in for a while, then they're out. You need to figure out what it is that is making people leave and reduce that. You don't want people to be short timers. If you can get people to subscribe to you, yay, you've won. But now you got to keep them, and you got to figure out what it is that's going to keep them. And again, that's getting back to the analytics. What are the stories they're reading? What kinds of stories? What kind of content? What kind of community? What kind of experience are they getting there? And again, this is looking at the data that tells me, look here. And my friend that I was mentioning, Dimitri Williams with the Ninja Metrics, what he told me was all data scientists can do, because what we're ultimately doing is we're looking for the insight, and the insight is the needle in the haystack. The best the data scientists can do is remove 99% of the hay. You still need a human being to come in and look at that last 1% of the hay and go, that's a needle. And that's where we get to the difference between data-driven and data-informed. Data-driven is just accepting what the machine tells you. Data-informed is looking at what the machine tells you and then going on your own and using your human intuition and your insight to see the things that tell you what really should be done, what's really happening, and kind of work out the why. Machines can tell you the what. They can't tell you the why because they're not human. All right.
Yeah, it seems almost like more of an art than a science. Like you can see the pathways, the footprints in the snow, but like why? Like you said, that's really interesting. I'm going slightly off script here, but when you did bring that up, when you see the pathways, like what's going wrong here? I'm curious, are there any like repeat offenders you see a lot for like local publishers in particular? People should keep an eye out. Are there any like, yep, that's what this is, like a mistake people are making?
Yeah, there are all manner of things like that. There's actually a classic. The one that comes to mind is the subject of Gods Amongst Designers, a guy named Jared Spool, who's the reason why all of our keyboards look like this. He designed the keyboard that we all use. Anyway, Gods Amongst Designers, he wrote an essay called The $300 Million Button. And it was a button that was costing an e-commerce retailer $300 million a year. And what it was is to do anything on the site, before the site would allow you to interact with it in any way, you had to sign in and you had to register and you had to go through this convoluted process before you could do anything. And the problem was that the button oftentimes wouldn't work. And because it was such a pain in the tuchus to do this, and you had to get these arcane passwords, people would lose the passwords. People aren't that bright. Not that many people really use password managers. And so they would find, people that would be coming to try to buy from them, and they would be getting frustrated, and they'd just create a new profile each time, and people would be spinning up Hotmail email addresses just to buy a pair of socks. One woman had like 128 profiles there. Yeah, exactly. So paying attention to how is your design actually impacting people? Repeat offenders, cramming in really obnoxious ads. If there's one thing I can caution you guys is auto-playing video with the sound on. Please do not do that.
Yeah, we talked about that last week on our call.
Yeah.
I hate it myself.
Everybody hates it. Everybody hates like going to the page on your phone and then all of a sudden your phone starts going at you. No, this is terrible. If you're in a quiet place, if you're just checking in on stuff on your phone, no, this is obnoxious. Are you gonna, you've just gotten the digital equivalent of like those training collars we put on dogs to go bzz, don't do that. Don't do that to your readers, please. Cramming in too many ads trying to monetize the page in ways that are obnoxious. Everybody, it's becoming bog standard now on websites that you got a top layer of ad playing a video, and then you got a bottom layer with like an X, but you try to click on the X, but you accidentally click on the ad, so you go to the advertiser site, which you didn't want to do, so now you got to go back and you got to reload the page. If your ad monetization strategy is such that you are destroying repeat users, you're going to make money in the short term, but you're costing yourself money long term. And this is where we're probably going to get into lifetime value, right? Yep. All right. So I feel like I'm talking too much. Am I okay?
No, that's great. You're making my job easy. It's good stuff.
Drop a quarter into me and I go. All right.
So
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, what were we going to say?
I was going to say that again, this is something that has been foreign to a lot of publishers because of bad habits that have built up over the last 2 decades. The rewards were there for getting tons and tons of clicks, and that's why we had all the things that have come to be known as clickbait. One simple trick to remove belly fat.
Yep.
All that stuff there. That's all clickbait. And what we operant conditioned our users to do is what? When's the last time you clicked on one of those by purpose? No. We know that we know they're grubby, but they get enough from certain people. It's kind of like, the Nigerian prince scam. They make it really, really obvious because basically they're pre-selecting only the people that are stupid enough to fall for it now will actually click through on the link. Lookalike audiences on Facebook. That's another essay. We'll talk about that. Anyway, returning to some errors that people are making about lifetime value is that if churn is the enemy of lifetime value. If you have gotten somebody to sign up, e-tailers pay an extreme amount of attention to costs of acquisition. How much does it cost me to get a customer? Last fall at the Line Publishing Conference, the guy who runs the 1440 newsletter was there. This is what he spends each month on acquiring new subscribers to his newsletter. $1 million in Facebook ads. He spends $1 million a month on Facebook ads. That's his cost of acquisition. Yeah, I know. Made my eyes go.
Yeah.
What does that mean if he's still staying in business? He's making more than $1 million a month off of those new subscribers from increased advertising. How is that possible? Because it's not just a one and done. He gets people in, he gets them to subscribe, they stick around, they find something useful in his newsletter, and then all of a sudden he can charge more for his advertising because he's got a bigger audience. Right. Lifetime value. Think about what it is that you've got if you're local news, you've got your local news audience. How do you keep these people coming back? And it's not just content. It's not just cranking out more content to people. And, increasingly, and we're going to get into this in a second, when we're looking at how publishers are using AI. A lot of publishers are fixated on using AI to do the thing that's a problem for them. The problem for them is, how do I get more content out there? Because the more content I got, the more chances I get of getting clicks and the more chances I get of making more money off of that content. And so you're just shoveling more and more content out onto the web in the hopes of getting more and more people to read it and having more clicks out there, and you're playing kind of a numbers game. The problem is supply and demand. If you're increasing the supply and the demand is flat, then the price is going to go down, and we're starting to see that. I mean, we've been seeing CPM spiral downwards for on 2 decades now. If you're going to be trying to sell into your local market, which is what you should be doing, and you just have a whole bunch of content that's kind of shoddily produced and is kind of disposable, and people kind of read it, but they're kind of like, it's not really that relevant to me, but it's there. You're not going to be able to long-term convince people that there's a reason for you to exist. Really good content is hard work. Good design, as I can tell you, is hard work. Making a really good song is hard work. You can't just push a button and have a hit song, despite what, we're seeing now, these completely fake AI-generated bands now. I think one of them is somewhere on SoundCloud or something like that. But for local news publishers, there are some interesting directions to keep an eye on. And this is where we go into, I've mentioned it a couple of times, every discussion that's in and around technology has to have the words AI in it. I'm convinced there's a law. All right. So I'd said a second ago that people are using AI to solve what they see as their problem. The problem for publishers, they see it is content, because content costs a lot of money to make and takes time. So they're like, okay, how can I use AI to solve my problem? Is that the problem for your audience? Is not having enough content really the problem for your audience? It's like when I ask people when I do training, we don't have a problem of information, too little information and data. How many people here want more emails in their inbox in the morning? no surprise, nobody's hand goes up. We don't want more. Well, we don't have a failure of content, and this is Clay Shirky, hat tip Clay Shirky, baby. We don't have a problem with data and information. We have a problem with filters, and we're seeing that. That's why our inboxes are overflowing. That's why there's spam everywhere. That's why my phone had 5 spam messages, text messages this morning, because it's not filtering it out good enough. We need the relevant information that we need to live our lives, and that's what you should be doing. Now, there are 3 tiers of utility and value in the local news environment, or even in a niche news environment. If you guys are publishers that are serving a national or even international audience that is aggregated around a community of interest, it's all the people who like jet skis, or all the people who like cardigan sweaters, or all the people who like fluffy giant Norwegian forest cats, whatever. You've got your community of people who are interested in a subject. There's the subject, and then there's geolocation. Local news is around a geographic area. News of interest is around a subject, a topic, an area of interest. Okay? To serve that community, we're going to use the word community there. There are 3 levels of value. The first level is just, and this is through Steve Yelvington, what we call town crier. That's hear ye, this just happened. And that's the local news site saying there was a really bad car accident at Main Street and 3rd, and there's a broken water main there, and the streets are flooded. You're telling people the thing that happened. Twitter stepped into that role and scarfed it up pretty well, and news kind of was getting to a symbiosis with Twitter, where we put our breaking news on Twitter, and then Twitter sent us the clicks, and then Elon Musk lost his ever-loving mind, and now that platform is unusable.
Local news needs new revenue streams, and my company, localpod.co, makes it easy and affordable. Our entry-level offering transforms your written content into high-quality audio and monetizes it with programmatic ads, all with 0 extra work on your end. Think of it as a plug-and-play podcast solution for publishers. And if and when you're ready, we'll help you stair-step your podcast feed up to even more content, whether that's in-depth investigative reporting, interviews with community leaders, or whatever ideas you may have. You keep reporting, we help you turn it into new revenue. So you can get started at localpod.co, link in the show notes, or click the link in the show notes to set up a call with us today and learn more. Okay, back to the episode. I can't, sorry, I just had to step in. I used to be on there I was never a power user of X, whatever, Twitter, and I'm just like, I can't handle it anymore. It's just not even useful to me to go on there. I'm mostly on LinkedIn now, but yeah. Again, which is not the same thing, as Twitter was, but yeah.
Yeah, user experience here. If you're going to
UX is awful. Yeah.
Yeah. If you're going to go into Twitter now and you're going to get assaulted by rage bait, neo-Nazis, and now increasingly really awful kitty porn is running rampant on that platform.
Jeez,
My
okay.
God.
I was not aware of that, but that's concerning.
Well, they canned all of their content moderators, and the bad guys figure out fairly quickly from backwards engineering, how do we get past the content filters? If they're robot content filters, a human being can figure out a way around that, and they have, and they are. Anyway, so easiest level there is, here's the things that happened or are happening or are going to happen in our hometown. All right. Baseline, town crier. Next level up is one where there's still an opportunity there. It's town square. It's where the community can have a conversation with itself through the stories that are getting published, and people see the story, and then they either contribute comments or they call up the newspaper and say, hey, look, this happened. One of the publishers I worked with in Northern California was writing stories about the National Park Service and how the Park Service, a couple of the rangers were really aggressive, and when the tourists would come, they'd be telling them not to park in that space, and the tourists would be like, well, where should I park then? They just go off and pepper spray them. Yeah, exactly. Fun time. Hey.
Yeah.
And then the locals were like, well, here's the use of force guidelines. They, and the publisher told me I could have had my people for 3 weeks doing a Google hunt trying to find these use of force guidelines hidden in some obscure area there.
Right.
But the audience told me stuff that then helped. The audience is having a conversation with itself. And that makes the audience feel more of a connection. When the audience can see itself in your publication, that's the town square functioning the way it should. That also takes what we were just talking about with Twitter, mediation. In the News Product Alliance, there's a whole bunch of people trying to solve that one. Okay, how do we mediate? How do we control the conversation? There's that narrow range of not enough mediation, and it's a free-for-all, and it's what Twitter has degenerated into, too much moderation, and it feels like you're in prison, and there's no chance to have a conversation, and we're out of here. So you got to keep it in that happy medium where it's, useful. You can let things, conversations happen organically, but it doesn't degenerate into, flame wars. All right. Third level, and this is the one where local publishers still own things, at least until AI finishes its job of ingesting and ripping off all of our content. And that's Town Expert. To exist in a community, whether it be a community of interest or a geo community, you need to know things. Where's the best place to get my oil changed? What's going on with the school district? What's going on with my tax rates? How come this street has so many potholes in it? Are my property taxes going up? Is there some volleyball league in the summertime I can join? Whatever. Things that you need to know to exist in your community. That's the Town Expert. That's the content, the highest value content. And that's content that's usually made by humans to be ingested by humans. What we're seeing right now is AI is trying to do that. So you can type in hey, look, my kid's 8th birthday party is coming up. Where should I have a little outdoor barbecue in a park for a bunch of 9-year-olds running around who can play soccer and plan the day for me? And people are posting things like, yeah, I asked the AI to do that and it did it great. Yes, in some cases. And in other cases, it says take the kids, hang gliding or take the kids to a gun range. AI does weird stuff now.
Does really weird stuff, yes.
It does. And it's because of model collapse, which if you have an hour, I'll explain that concept to you. But basically, it's just, the way AI is copying AI, which is copied AI. So it's making a copy of a copy of a copy. And if there's an error somewhere in that chain, it's getting replicated. And pretty soon the error is all you're going to see. Gresham's Law. Anyway, go ahead, man. You got other questions for me?
Yeah, no, this is all great. I love the framework of the 3 kind of tiers.
Mm-hmm.
That we could talk we do multiple episodes on all this stuff, really.
Yeah.
But and we talked about LTV there and everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny you were talking about the mediation thing. Brought to mind, I had a lady on the podcast a year or 2 ago named Coralie St. Louis.
Mm-hmm.
And she's a founder of this app called NPAC Social. I like their approach. I'm not sure what the project's doing. I just looked it up. The website's still up and everything. But what she was doing is it's like an app, and the functionality for local areas, the functionality was going to be like Reddit, where you can post and stuff, but only accredited journalists can put the stories up. But then the public can comment on them and everything like that. I thought that was kind of a cool idea of a model. It's just one of those things you need a network effect for it to gain the volume for it to work.
Yeah. The town square discussions are taking place on Facebook.
But in my town, I'm in Montrose, Colorado. It's the Montrose message board, and that's always where I go. That's where it's going on. The town's a population of 20,000, and the Facebook group has 28,000 profiles in it. So yeah,
that's extremely common.
Yeah.
Facebook was really, really good at getting people to come on the platform, and they enticed everybody to come on there with, making the experience really nice. You get to connect with all your friends. You get to see all the people you went to high school with. You get to see, the baby pictures of your friends. You get to play little games online. You get to have, make your own little groups there. Facebook has very famously in the last 3 years basically given the middle finger to news publishing. They basically said, no, we do not like news. We do not care about news. We are de-emphasizing news links. They are deliberately de-emphasizing news links, and publishers have seen, in many cases, their traffic from organic social fall off a cliff.
Yep.
What do you do about that? Okay, what is it that people are getting from these discussion boards on Facebook, and how can you make it better? For me, R&D doesn't stand for research and development. It stands for rip off and do it better. So let's figure out what it is that Facebook is doing with the community in Montrose. It's got a whole bunch of people there. They're having discussions there. What are the things that are working good? But where are the areas where it's failing? And the areas where it's failing, that's the opportunity for whatever local news publisher it is to make it better.
Mm-hmm.
What do people want? What's the problem they're trying to solve? If you're looking in the local community and the problem in the local community is the kids don't have enough to do after school and there aren't enough fun activities, well, let's start trying to figure out where can we get people together to give the kids something to do so they're not going around spray painting on walls in our community. If the problem is that we have a persistent homelessness problem here in the city, as in Los Angeles, this neighborhood's really hit by homelessness. Okay, the local news organization should be like, okay, here's the things that we need to do to try to figure this out. Here's how we can support. Here's how we can come together. Here's how we can problem solve. Let's everybody start trying to figure out how we get together and do this, get buy-in at the local level to make something good happen. And we used to call that, solutions journalism, crusading journalism, whatever it is that you can do to try to help your community solve the problems that address it. That's your opportunity in building a community. You actually start solving problems for your users. Your users will fight like tigers to make sure that you survive. That aforementioned publisher in Northern California, when he got into financial trouble, his readers demanded he double the price of his newspaper. How often do you see people saying, I want you to charge me more?
Right.
They would come up to him on the street and stuff $100 bills in his pocket to make sure that he survived, because he was something that was essential to that community. And if you are essential to the community, like I said, they will fight to make sure that you survive because they need you. So use that, become essential to them, reach out to them, be more transparent, get rid of this separation of church and state, whatever thing. One of the things that we didn't mention here in our list of topics we wanted to capture today is influencers. And again, if there's AI and influencers, those are two diametrically opposed poles. One is all machine, the other one is all human. Although now we're getting AI influencers, so maybe I should shut up. But there's a reason why recently the ad spend for influencers exceeded the ad spend for traditional media. And at a guess here, let me pose a question to you. Why are people going to influencers?
I don't know. That's where they are. I work with some influencers doing their podcasts. And say because people spend too much time in their phones, on their screens. I don't know. You tell me.
There's a reason why people go to influencers. It's because it's the same reason why when we call into a customer support center and we hear that robot voice, we all start pushing the O button. Human beings want to talk to human beings. I went through this last week when just, renting a car, renting a truck to haul some stuff and trying to deal with the robot, even though the voice recognition is a lot better than it used to be, it still sucks.
Mm-hmm.
We need to talk to other human beings that can then understand our problems and solve our problems and address the things in a human way. Influencers do these things in a human way. Again, in this community of influence, whether it's on a subject or it's in a local news thing, it's a human being that hears you and responds to you like a human being and has the context to understand your problem, understand you, and then address it. Influencers also have something that the machine really is not good at, a sense of humor or other emotions.
Right.
Some of the influencers are, like I said, they are doing rage bait. They're doing whatever it is that makes you the most pissed off possible so that you keep on clicking. And then the algorithm that's inside of like Instagram and TikTok says, oh, you like stuff that makes you angry? Here's a whole bunch of more stuff that's going to make you angry.
That's how it happens, yeah.
Yeah, and then you go spiraling down that rabbit hole. Influencers represent an amazing opportunity for the journalism industry, But what I see happening here, and I'm going to do an entire essay on this, I'll send it to you. You can send it out to all your subscribers when I get it done. It's going to be on our Truth Path Analytics site. We are recapitulating the error that I saw us make when I was the lead researcher for the Newspaper Association of America in the early to mid 2000s. And that can be encapsulated in one word: shovelware. Back then, what we did is we just took the print newspaper and we stuck her online. A lot of the technology back then, and God, I remember all this, it was about how to just scan in a PDF of your newspaper, and then they're spending all this inordinate amount of time on flash animations of pages turning.
Right.
So we were taking the newspaper experience that we understood in paper and taking that paper and just putting it on a computer screen and saying, oh, good, done. We've digitized the paper. We have migrated to digital platforms. No problem.
And they were never fun to those read. They're always glitchy and it's just.
They were horrific until quite recently. That was the Chicago Sun-Times digital experience here. If you went to the Sun-Times app, still maybe I stopped using it because, like you said, it's unusable. You have to pinch and drag, and you can't read it, and it's terrible. Well, that's what's happening right now with influencers. We are shovel-wearing digital journalism onto influencer platforms, and influencer platforms are not the same as digital journalism. They are their own thing. Best description I've gotten is one of the real breakout influencers, Sofia Delgado. She's got millions and millions and millions of followers. She's out of England. She started with the BBC, then she went to Vice. She would do one story for the major mainstream media publication, BBC, the Beeb, or for Vice, and then she'd do the same one on Insta and TikTok. Because, she was the young kid in the newsroom, the social stuff. Go do the social stuff.
Right.
And what she found was on the mainstream media platforms, if you looked at the comments underneath it, it was all the type of tripe and garbage that you're probably expecting to see underneath a young, attractive woman who dares to have an opinion online. It was just bilge, awfulness, mean, underneath the BBC or Vice. But on her own profile, same story, slightly different presentation, totally different reactions. People were kind because they saw her as a human being. She was acting like a human being. She wasn't dehumanized the way that she was on these big media sites. What does that tell us? That people connect with us when we act like we're human beings, when we don't have that formality, that wall, that traditional journalism of objectivity and both sidesism and everything else. What is it that influencers do? They don't just report the news. They tell you how a human being looks at these reacts to these events. Hey, I'm down here and they're closing this beloved bagel store in my neighborhood, and you give the facts of the bagel store closing, and then you talk a little bit about what the bagel store meant to you. You personalize it. You become a human being. The best way I can say that influencers operate, to my way of thinking, is influencers are operating on the web the way that journalists always used to when the day was done and we were sitting in the local seedy bar having a beer and telling all of our buddies what really happened. There was the version of reality we put in the paper, and then there was the version that we told in the bar. One of the geniuses of Hunter S. Thompson with his gonzo journalism is he said there is no difference between the two. He basically wrote his gonzo journalism was all his emotions, his reactions, him in the story, what was really going on, and he didn't gussy things up and formalize it. And so back then that was seen as, transgressive, part of the new journalism. But that's kind of where influencers are. And they talk to us as human beings, and they talk to us like we're human beings. They don't talk to us like robots. They don't talk to us in a way that makes us want to push the O button. Now, there's a whole playbook there. My partner Jacob has his own local news site in Kansas, in Topeka, Kansas, and he's partnered up with a local influencer, and it has been magnificent. And it's also a magnificent learning opportunity to figure out How do you find these people? How do you find the right people? How do you partner up with them in a way that's mutually beneficial to the both of you? How do you bring their energy and enthusiasm and audience to your platform? How do you bring your platform and its audience and the authority and the legitimacy to an influencer? There's a real opportunity here for news publishers at the small to mid market to find their local influencers and partner up with them to get that buzzword alert going on so that both sides can have a win-win.
This episode is brought to you by Greenlight. Get this. Adults with financial literacy skills have 82% more wealth than those who don't. From swimming lessons to piano classes, us parents invest in so many things to enrich our kids' lives. But are we investing in their future financial success? With Greenlight, you can teach your kids financial literacy skills like earning, saving, and investing. And this investment costs less than that after-school treat. Start prioritizing their financial education and future today with a risk-free trial at greenlight.com/Spotify. Greenlight.com/Spotify.
All right, go ahead. What else you got?
Yeah, no, good stuff. I didn't, like you said, I didn't have that in the questions, but that was, I love the way you framed it. Gonzo influencers. I'm going to have to write that down.
Well,
now what comes to mind when I think of what you think of as an influencer. Yeah.
I mean, my mind immediately goes to like where I could turn this into a Saturday Night Live skit.
Right.
The skit that they had of the people who talk in the low voice on NPR.
NPR with Alec Baldwin. Is that the one? Yeah.
Sweaty balls.
Yeah, good stuff.
All right.
Okay, yeah, we're a ways in. I got to get to the big question that I had.
Sure.
Not the big question, but it was just a juicy line that you mentioned in our initial call last week. And you said, and I quote, the poisonous metric that everyone focuses on, but that might be the ruination of your news organization. So we got to talk about that. So what is that?
Indeed.
What is that poisonous metric that you're talking about?
That poisonous metric that gets surfaced at you through Google Analytics. And by the way, sidelight, Google Analytics 4, GA4, was not designed for you. If you're a news publisher, it ain't for you. Google built that thing for the people who write Google checks. The people who write Google checks are the people who sell stuff online. Okay? That not you. So, GA4 emphasizes page views, and page views were the currency with publishers because the more page views you got, there's ads on your page, you're making money. Okay. So that metric, people are chasing page views, people are chasing clicks. What we were talking about earlier was lifetime value. If you're cranking out clickbait, you're not delivering lifetime value. You're looking for drive-by traffic. You're looking for viral hits. If that's your business, go ahead. Go compete with BuzzFeed and every other clickbaity thing out there and all the bloggers out there, real and fake, that are cranking out headlines that are trying to entice people to click through once because they're going to make enough money off of that drive-by traffic. To do that, you're going to have to just crank out, as I was saying earlier, tons and tons of traffic with clickbaity headlines that then go on to get traffic that's kind of diffuse and not very well defined. It's a numbers game, and that isn't what you should be playing if you're in local news. You don't want traffic from Kuala Lumpur and Kazakhstan, because your local advertisers that are paying for ads there aren't really going to see much value. They're not coming down to the local hardware store. So page views as a metric there, it's an interesting metric. I'm not saying you should pay no attention to it, but if you're going to be looking at monetizing your content with your audience, you're going to need to start looking at the other things, which is time spent on page. A lot of it, again, with bot traffic, because a lot of these sites, especially news sites, are getting driven to their knees by all the AI bots that are coming in and scraping their traffic. And all those AI bots that come in spend like a second on the page. If your site's getting overrun by really short-term traffic, you got a bot problem. Time to start filtering those things out. Call me up. We'll deal with you. Cloudflare is doing solutions. We have other ways of thinking about this to keep all your content from getting robbed and you getting nothing. So if we're not going to be looking at page views, what do we look at? Like I said, time spent on page. Pages per session. That tells me how loyal people are. If they come to your site and all they're doing is looking at one article and leaving, we got a problem with the experience. We're not recommending other content. There isn't enough other things there that are interesting for them. We got to look at your content strategy. We got to look at your design. We got to look at how else multiple points of entry are. We're going to get them to come to your site and go, oh, that was a good story. Oh, that one's interesting too. Click, tap, whatever. Besides that, also, like I said, paths. How are people navigating through your site? Are they finding the things? Look at the search, both the internal search on your site. If people are coming to your site and then they're typing in when is the 4th of July parade or who's on the city council, these are questions that your users are posing that they think you can answer. That is gold. That tells you what your people are concerned with. Once you know what people want, then you can start figuring out, okay, do we have that for them? Can we make that for them? Can we find a way to get that to them? Another rule of thumb for publishers, do what you do best and link to the rest. Don't try to be everything to everyone. If you do that, you're going to wind up being nothing to no one. Stay in your lane. If you are a local or a mid-sized news publisher that has a community that's coming to your site that is getting stuff that they need there, great. Let's try to figure out how to solidify that in the best way possible to make those people really, really super loyal. And then we start looking at other metrics like share. If any of you are familiar with, it's called the engagement pyramid. The engagement pyramid is basically a sales funnel and you stick it on, turn it on its head. All right. It starts off with, am I even interested in this? Do I even know about it? And it goes all the way up to, I know about it, I like it, I find it useful, I'm going to buy it. The very, very peak of it is recommend and share. And that's when your users like you so much, they become evangelists. And they say, you got to do this thing. You got to check these guys out. You got to look at this video here. It's so funny. You got to read this story. It made me cry. You got to look at this thing, whatever it is that you have on your local news site. That can then get people to recommend you and start growing your audience. You've just deputized them and turned them into your sales agents. And again, backwards engineering what it is that causes people to share things. What kind of people share things? What are the things they share? When do they share them? How do they share them? Which platforms do they share them to? Where is your referral traffic coming from? Is there a university in town that is linking to some of your stories because some of the professors at the university are finding the stories that you wrote about how all the fish turned up dead in a certain river after the pollution? This was used in the classroom teaching about biology or whatever. Real world case there. You have to start looking at these things rather than just page views, because that tells you not just how many people came here, but what do they find? Why are they coming? And the why of them coming is how you unlock the value and how you're going to find a pathway to survival at a time when the word that I hear from publishers so much is just chaos. Everything feels really chaotic right now. Everything, the things that we'd been depending on for 20 years, the table just got flipped on us. All right, keep going. What else we got?
No, that's awesome. I said at the beginning of the podcast, like I used to hear the word data and all this stuff, my eyes would glaze over. But you've got a great way of kind of conceptualizing it and everything. So no, that was an awesome answer.
No,
You're like a clip machine too. I'm gonna have to take like 3 clips out of there and put them up on LinkedIn.
Perfect. Well, that's awesome.
There's my influencer brain working there. See?
Well, no, LinkedIn is actually, as you pointed out, Twitter has become unusable. It's not usable for anything other than people yelling at each other.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah.
And if that's your business, then that's your business. But it's competition in that space is awful. Instead, let's go to a place where we can have a human conversation with other human beings, where we can actually get value out of it rather than just have our blood boil.
Yep. I've got a friend. He's got an online business that's pretty passive at this point. And then him and his wife have a franchise here in town that his wife mostly operates. So it's just him and his toddler at home all day. Yeah. The dude just sits on Twitter and he just constantly is like, can you believe this? I'm like, dude, find a hobby, man. Go golfing or something. Like, get off of Twitter.
Yeah. You're going to drive yourself crazy.
I know.
It's just going to lead you down some very sad pathways. But yes.
Okay, I did have one more. We kind of touched on the LTV before. We covered that pretty well.
Yep.
AI has come up again and again, and really every episode of this podcast these days, it comes up. But yeah, I wanted you to talk a little bit about, you're in an AI tinkerers group and just have some knowledge in the space. Actually, now that I'm reading what I wrote out, I said, how do you see the AI ecosystem actually impacting local media companies? Where do you see the space heading? That feels like a very broad question. But just any thoughts in the area there, because it's just such a massive tidal wave of the tables getting flipped, like you said.
Yeah. Where AI has succeeded mainly is in providing kids in school ways to cheat on their homework.
Yep.
That as an application it's just perfect. And from there it's spreading out. I think that AI has been way too much a technology in search of an application. For the last 3 years, all the guys I know who are, the propeller head coder geniuses, data scientists working on AI, they would get tasked to build some feature, some widget, something, because somebody else had built it and everybody else needed to have it now too. And the reason they were doing that is because the VCs were backing up dump truck loads of cash and dumping hundreds of billions of dollars onto anything that has the word AI in it. And so a lot of companies just cranked AI into there, and they cranked the easiest form of it, which is this chat AI, where supposedly you can ask this question. We call it the AI mentalist effect, which is that illusion that we are getting valid results out of these LLMs, large language modules like ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude or Grok or whatever like that. When we are typing our questions in or using voice to ask the machine and it's answering back to us, it seems to us like there's an intelligence in there that's actually asking us. The joke I've seen there is an AI company says, we train this dog to talk. It doesn't actually understand language, but it kind of sounds like it's having a conversation by mimicking the sound of human speech. CEO, awesome. I've fired my entire staff. How quickly can it start diagnosing medical disorders? The minute that it feels like there's a person there, the way that Silicon Valley looks at problems is it looks for ways to replace humans. How can we get humans out of the loop and replace it with the machine, and then we don't have to pay these pesky humans anymore, and we can just automate and scale? The danger for this is, as I said, we are in a business where it's a human touch. People are craving the human touch. You see stories coming all out of England particularly, but also here in the United States about the loneliness epidemic, how people are feeling isolated. And when you have a robot talking to people, it's isolating. There was an essay recently about English teachers talking about how they can tell an AI written essay right off the bat because it's soulless.
Yep.
There's no soul in this thing. There's no humanity in this thing. So the emphasis on LLMs is, to me, kind of a red herring. It's where the industry has gone because that's where the VCs have dumped trucks of money on it. But where I think there's an opportunity is where we can start using AI not to just do the things that solve the problem of how can I get a VC to write me a check with 9 zeros on it. Let's figure out how do we use the AI in a way that solves the problem with my community? How do I use the AI to figure out or my problems? How do I use the AI to figure out how to get more people from being drive-by readers into being subscribers or members or donors? Can we start using the AI to build customized sales funnels? Can I start using the AI to send out more customized emails in the email newsletter with, hey, look, here are the things that are actually relevant to you. Here are the things that you don't usually pay attention to, but we really think that you should take a look at this thing. Start using AI to solve the problems inherent in the local news space rather than just, hey, look, how can I use the AI to shave an hour off of my reporter writing the story? That's still legit in some cases. You can use the AI to summarize, a 9-hour meeting and tell you certain things. Oh, God, I hope there isn't a 9-hour city council meeting, but who knows? 5-hour, 4-hour, 3-hour, whatever. However many hours it is. Summarize it, give me a précis of it, what happened there, and then have the reporter follow up on these things. That's cool. That's a good use of AI helping, with content generation in a way where it isn't replacing the human, it's augmenting the human. Now, in my space in design, where I think we're going to start seeing some interesting things happen is customizing design on the fly, redesigning a page on the fly, making sure that the page is relevant to what you do. One area I can tell insurance companies are working really, really hard on this, especially like car insurance. Why? The roadside assistance. When, again, because we don't like talking to a robot on these things, when somebody has a flat tire, or they run out of gas, or the engine breaks down, and they're on the side of the road and they need help, what are they doing? What would you do? Are you going to go through the app, or are you going to call somebody to get a tow truck there? What, just off the top of your head, what would you do?
I'd definitely call somebody.
Exactly. Why?
Yeah. I like you said, you need that context. I need to know that this person is going to come help me. Like now, like when it's like that's a crisis situation. This needs to get taken care of. I don't want Silicon Valley taking care of this right now passively.
In one word, trust.
There you go.
I need to trust that I'm getting a solution to my problem. Okay. That, again, we're boiling things down to trust. And we don't trust the robot. Why don't we trust the robot? Because we have sad experiences of interacting with the robot and the robot not doing the thing that it said it was going to do. Okay. So the insurance companies, here's a data point. Every time you call the call center for an insurance company, it costs the insurance company $5.
Jeez.
Yeah. So does that really make that big of a difference? Well, let's say, you're Geico and you got 50 million people buying their car insurance through Geico. Let's say even 1% of those call the call center each month. Just working the numbers. Okay, that's 500,000 per month. $5 per call. $2.5 million a month that you need. If you can start cutting down on that, all of a sudden there's real money there.
Mm-hmm.
So can we use the AI to create an environment where if you use the app instead of calling, I can give you enough trust there so that you won't call and cost me $5. How do I do that? Okay, I have to start building an experience that's customizable to your circumstances, that gives you the feeling that, hey, look, help is on the way. What can I do for you in an app that I can't do for you on a phone call? I can give you immediate feedback that shows where you are on the map and a little dot, and the dot getting closer and closer with the tow truck getting closer to you. Operator on the phone can't do that. So we start looking at how do we design things here using AI to surface to you the thing that addresses the real need that you have in the situation. If we can start looking at AI to customize maybe the front pages of the local websites, or if we can use AI to customize the newsletter that we're sending out, or to customize the conversations in the forums to be more relevant and better for the users there. There are a lot of possibilities here of using AI that go beyond just having a chatbot that start getting into the product realm. How do we actually build products for people that have AI inside of them that still have the human touch that we need? Because there's got to be a human being. There's a human being driving the tow truck out to like change your flat tire. So there's a human in there. I don't think we got robots driving the tow trucks just yet. But there is going to be a human in there, but we're using AI automated processes up to the point that we need human intervention. And that, to me, I think is an area of opportunity for publishers. I think that that's where the experiments should be going with the small to mid-sized publishers there. How do we start using AI to actually solve problems rather than just, here's the off-the-shelf thing, we're going to take all of the content for the last 10 years, dump it into a training data set, and having the AI answer questions when readers type in their questions. I mean, there's some utility in that. You're using your own first-person data and your own first-person stuff to like build a experience that can maybe answer questions. But if it goes wrong, to me, I think the next couple of years are going to be marked by ever-increasing product liability suits. Because people are sticking AI into what you were just talking about. You use the word, it's mission critical. This is a situation where you're in crisis and you're relying on AI to solve the crisis. and all of a sudden AI goes off the rails and real world harms happen, folks is going to sue. Don't be one of the people that winds up getting sued for this thing. Anyway, what else you got for me, man?
I mean, there's literally, I'm just going to have you on again, I think, because I could dig into like any one of those topics we've done a bunch of times, but I actually have to bounce soon and I have a project I need to finish up real quick.
As do I.
Oh, let's put a bow on it for this time. Where can people find you, and where should people link to? Anything else you want to promote? And I can link to everything in the show notes and all that stuff too.
Well, my partner, Jacob Fogg, and I have our company, TruePath Analytics, truepathanalytics.com. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm also participating on the Slack channels for the News Product Alliance and for Lion Publishers. And in places like that, I'm looking to see what is it that people are trying to solve? What are the problems that publishers are running into? How can I help folks out? How can I figure out nobody's problems are exactly the same, but they rhyme. So hit me up if you got concerns. Go to david@truepathanalytics.com, or if you like Gmail, just david.lafontaine@gmail.com. Hit me up if you want to have a conversation. Tell me what's going on with you, and I'll see if there's something I can do to help, okay?
That's great. Thanks so much, Dave. Cool. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for listening to Small Press Big Ideas. You can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. If you'd like to help the show, the best thing you can do is to tell a friend or colleague and just take a few minutes to leave a rating and a review on whatever platform you're listening to right now. It only takes a minute out of your day, but it really does help the podcast grow and reach more ears. Check back for new episodes every Monday.